Hi, I am Sid. I am an education consultant with Interlace Studies. In these videos, we are providing information for interested international students to get into Australian school, colleges and university. In this video, I am going to explain permanent residency opportunity in Australia after completing your study. Research has showed almost 70 to 80% international students who come to Australia to study would like to stay in Australia. And I think it's pretty normal because Australia is one of the developed country in the world, and when you are here in Australia and studied in Australia and then understood the quality of life or the benefit or like opportunities in Australia, it's quite normal for students to think that way. But many international students seem to be confused about education and permanent residency in Australia. Many students probably confused if they go to Australia to study, there will be better chance to get permanent residency after completing their education. And it is partly true. If you study in Australia and then you complete the degree in Australia, then of course you will have you will be at better position. But getting into Australia as a student does not mean that you will get permanent residency after completing your study. And for that, I think we need to talk a little bit about how this education, international education and Australian permanent residencies are linked. At the beginning, when in 1990s, when international students started to come to Australia in large number, like in 1986, I think there were only 2,000 or 20,000 students were international students were there. In 1990, there were 40,000 or something. So I'm not exactly sure the number, but similar to that. I mean, it was not much popular. And Australia of course is a country of migrants, and all modern Australians, they say, they all migrated from Europe and Asia and another part of the world. In 1990s, Australia really emphasized or promoted that, okay, if you complete education in Australia, it will be easier for you to get into permanent residency. And Australian immigration department somehow was a bit flexible about Australian graduates. So if you graduate from university or vocational institutions, that was highly likely to get permanent residency. And that was misused by many vocational education providers. So many vocational institutes, they hired international students and then they could easily get permanent residency. And that flexibility and Australian government of course understood this, and then they somehow separated Australian student visa versus permanent residency visa. So now at the moment, it doesn't matter whether you study in an Australian university or abroad, if you have the skills that Australia is looking for, then you can migrate directly to Australia from any country in the world. There is no restriction. So international students who are confused that going to Australia as a student has a better probability of getting permanent residency is not totally true. When you are there, you will get, Australia has this point system. You might have heard that, okay, point. And these points are the number that Australian immigration or Australian institution give to the people for their skill, for their education, for their age and other few criteria. So when you study in Australia, you will get few points based on your study in Australia, but that's not much. At the same time, you also can get extra point if you work in Australia. And if you work for 1 year, you get 5 points, for example. But if you work in abroad, like overseas, you need to work 2-3 years to get the same point. Sure, I like any international students to know the connection between student visa or student like status and permanent residency. You better learn, develop the skills that Australia need, try to improve your English, and then only being students will be benefit for you. So of course you are in Australia, you study in English, you live in English environment, and then of course you improve your English. So international students, I recommend you to focus on developing skill, focus on improving English, and then focus on getting job and get experience, Australian experience, and improve the points. If you just study there and then only you want to get a permanent residency, it is not going to help. And in that regard, if you have any questions like how like as a student I can prepare myself to develop the career to improve the points, you can contact us and we can help you. We would like to tell you, we are an education consultant. We are not allowed to give you direct immigration information, but those information I just told you are publicly available, and that publicly available information we can share to any people, and then we will help you of course to know these things, and then you can do, or you can like take a decision or take a step to get this kind of permanent residency things. And we welcome you to our office. You can contact us, you call us, email us, and we are there to help you. Thank you.